morning. I am so delighted to be with you this morning. Happy Earth Sunday. And thank you for inviting me into this beautiful space, and thank you.
Yes.
And this beautiful service. I love the time with the children, and I think that's where a lot of the hope lies.
And she brought some of her own trash.
I did. Thank you so much. Thank you, Pastor Adele, and I want to thank Rosemary and Tom and Lou for, from Earth Stewards, bringing me in to be with you today. I understand that the Earth Stewards held a survey last year asking this congregation what were your top environmental concerns, and the top one on that list was climate change. And I have that concern on the top of my list as well. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about plastics, and I hope by the end of the time we have together, I've convinced you that plastics is actually a huge part of the climate change problem. So in the 15 minutes that I have with you, and we'll have a little more time for those who want to join for the coffee hour as well, I want to cover three things. One is the key problems with plastics, and here I mean single-use plastics. That's about 42% of the plastics that are produced. It's the stuff we touch for just a few seconds or minutes and then dispose of. So second thing I want to cover is the simple actions that any of us can take. I assume many of you are taking some of these actions already, and I saw in your program, there's actually an insert with a lot of great ideas there. I will cover just a few, and we can talk some more about others. And the third thing is that I want to give a couple of examples of community action that can really make a difference. Okay, briefly, my story, how I came to sustainable living. By the way, I live about a mile down the road, just off Western Avenue, so this is my neighborhood. It's been my neighborhood since 1999. And when I left my 25-year career at the World Bank Group, where I was focused on climate change, but not on individual action around climate change, on what businesses could do, on what governments could do, I left that career, and before jumping into my next career, I took what I call fondly a gap year. My son was about to head off to college. I wanted to spend a little more time with him before heading into another career. And 2 weeks or so into that gap year, I went to my local dry cleaners, and if you go to the dry cleaners, possibly your local dry cleaners, President Valet, just down here on Connecticut Avenue. I'd always been bothered by all the plastic that I was taking home every week with my clean clothes. And so I went in there one day and I asked the owner, the clerk, would she be willing to put my clean clothes when I picked them up into my own garment bag, which I brought with me that day, and it looked a little bit like this. And I was a longtime customer. She said, "No problem, Stephanie." And so I left there with a big grin on my face and realized, okay, I've just shed this whole source of plastic in my life, and this feels great. And I got to thinking, there may be other people in this neighborhood who would also love this opportunity. So I went back a couple weeks later, and I asked, it's a husband-wife team, Yoon, I asked Yoon, would you be willing to offer your other customers reusable garment bags for their cleaning? She had a little debate with her husband, who is a good businessman, and they decided to pilot. They bought 20 of these bags with their logo on it, President Valet, and lo and behold, and some of you may be patrons of President Valet, this program took off. It's not my program, it's their program, but it's great when you walk in there. You still see the single-use plastic, but you see a lot of these green reusable bags. And they tell me that about half of their customers now use these bags. So this felt great, and it happened very quickly. And I started scratching my head and wondering what else I could be doing in my own life to live more sustainably. Long story short is I did a lot of research and realized there were kind of 3 buckets of activity that I could have been and now do spend some time making sure that I focus on. One is around food, and you mentioned it this morning with the kids, around reducing food waste, composting where you can, eating a more plant-based diet. The second is around plastics, purging as much single-use plastics as possible in my life. And the third was around recycling, just recycling better, more carefully. And that's how my story began. Today I'm going to focus on that plastics piece. And so I want to start by telling you the problems with plastics. I see 4 problems from my research, and you've read about a lot of them, but the first one is the one I knew about 6 years ago when I started this journey, and the one we see every day. Plastics have many good properties, actually, but they're very light, durable, and they're everywhere. And you see them outside in the trees, you see them on the street. We live in DC. The Anacostia River is one of 3 rivers in the US that's been declared by the EPA a few years ago to be impaired by trash because of all the primarily plastic beverage containers. So problem number 1 is the environmental problem, and we see plastics. You've seen the pictures, the images, I'm sure, of the islands of trash in the ocean. There are 5 of these. They're as big as countries, and the plastic doesn't just sit on the surface of the ocean. It goes all the way down to the depths of the ocean. And we've had plastics seen all the way at Mount Everest, so it's everywhere. Okay, so number 1 issue is environmental. The second issue is plastics is a huge climate change problem. Plastics account for 3.4% of greenhouse gas emissions. That may sound like a small number to you, but it is huge. It is greater than the aviation sector, for example. And the problem with plastics and this climate change problem is that plastics are growing at astronomic rates, and it's projected that by 2060, we will triple the rate of plastic production. So it's a big and growing climate problem. The third problem around plastics is that it's an environmental justice problem. We don't live near an industrial plant that turns fossil fuels into plastic polymers, and it's a good thing we don't, but the people that do live near or work at those plants so that we can have this kind of thing in our daily lives, primarily they're located, well, they're now across the country, but the concentration of them is in this area in Louisiana near the fossil fuel source. In Louisiana, between Baton Rouge and New Orleans, there's an 85-mile stretch that's known as Cancer Alley. And the reason it's called Cancer Alley is because the cancer rates among those who live in that area are 10 times greater than the US average. So it is an environmental justice issue. The fourth issue is that it is a human health issue. Plastics have become a human health issue. I'm smiling, but I'm not happy about this. We are seeing this more and more. I would say in the last 5 years, the number of medical journals that are coming out with information about the plastics in our body it's pervasive now. The articles, but also the plastic. So plastic, we are seeing in every single organ of the human body. All of us here today have plastic in our bodies. It is in our bloodstream. It has passed the blood-brain barrier. It has passed the barrier to the placenta. It is everywhere. And what we don't know, but we're learning more and more every day, is that there is an increasing human health concern associated with those plastics. It's the plastics and it's the chemicals used to make the plastic that are harmful to our health. And we're seeing growing concerns about fertility, growing because of plastics, growing concerns about heart health. And the list goes on and on. I don't have enough time to go through all of them, but you're probably seeing the same articles I am seeing every week, almost every week I see a new article about this. Okay, so those are the problems. what can you do about it? What can you do to start to bring down your own exposure to plastics? And of course, everything you do to bring your own exposure down also means you are less of the consumer of plastic, which is good for all those other reasons. So I want to give you 3 quick examples. The first one is, I think a lot of us have seen a lot of these takeout containers, especially coming into our homes during COVID when we were getting a lot of delivery. Black plastic, by the way, is hardly ever recyclable. There are alternatives to, first of all, let me say from a human health perspective, I am guilty also of bringing this home. I'm not zero waste. I just do a lot to bring my plastic waste down. Do not microwave these. If you happen to bring them home or they get delivered, transfer them to something else, ceramic or glass, and then microwave in that. Not in this, because the plastics and the chemicals will leach into your food. Alternatives, you could do as I do if you want and carry with you a container that when you're in restaurants, you can pop out if you have extra food. I always do, don't eat. I put it in here, bring it home, and it's a meal or part of a meal that week. There is also, I don't earn a commission from them, but there's a new exciting company that started last year by 2 brothers, young guys, called To Go Green. I don't know if any of you have heard of them, but they partner with about 20 restaurants and counting to deliver food in reusable plastic containers, and then you can bring those containers back. So those are some ideas. Second idea, if you don't already do this, I switched from the plastic water bottle. I always carry a stainless steel bottle with me. I just got back 2 days ago from a trip. I bring this with me on my trip in my carry-on. I fill it at the airport after security. And third idea is, remember we talked about the leaching of plastics and chemicals from hot foods. We also get that with beverages. So this may look like a paper cup to you, but it is lined with plastic, and that plastic makes this cup not recyclable, even though there are many of these, for example, in the Starbucks recycling bin. You do not want to put your hot coffee in here or your hot tea in here because it leaches a lot of chemicals into your hot beverage. If you can remember, if you don't drink your coffee at home, bring a reusable cup with you, or if they have it, ask for a ceramic cup at the coffee shop. So those are just a few ideas. Many more we could talk about, hundreds more we could talk about. I want to then turn to community action. I'm just going to give you 2 quick examples. There are things you can do where you will feel, if you get the bug like I do and you start to get rid of plastic, you can feel as though you are contributing to something greater if you're part of a community. And I'm, for example, a volunteer with the DC chapter of Sierra Club, and we've been trying for the last couple of years to get a bottle deposit bill passed in DC. And what is a bottle deposit bill? We used to have one in DC. It means that if you bring your plastic or metal or a glass container in the store, if you purchase it, you pay a 10-cent deposit. When you bring that container empty and back, you get that deposit back. 10 states have this, and in those 10 states, they have seen a drastic reduction in their beverage pollution waste in the community, and they've seen a drastic increase in recycling rates. We think that a DC law will triple the recycling of beverage containers. Good news is it's passed. It was introduced in January, but not passed. And then it's going through the legislative process now. If you're interested in helping with that, there's lots to do. The second example is one that I actually started a couple of years ago called DC Reduces. I have a group of volunteers. We have this sticker that says BYO, bring your own. DC Reduces Waste. We've got 70 shops in DC with the sticker in the window, and it just means that you're not going to feel like a weirdo if you go into Bread and Chocolate and you ask for your coffee in your own mug, or to a dry cleaner if you ask for them to put your clean clothes into your own garment bag. So those are a couple of quick examples. Again, I'd love to talk more about this with you in the coffee hour for those of you who can join. I want to leave you with a quote that has inspired me, and I hope it will inspire you, by Margaret Mead, the anthropologist, who said, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed individuals can change the world. In fact, it's the only thing that ever has." Thank you.